We got a message from you recently, the listener, and it painted such a really vivid, universally relatable picture. And honestly, it's the entire reason we are sitting here today.
Yeah, it was an incredible message.
It really was. So I want you to step into this scenario for a moment, just because you are the one who originally mapped it out for us. Imagine you are swimming in an incredibly vast, beautiful ocean.
Right.
The water is pristine. And just on the horizon, you can see your ultimate destination.
Like a shoreline or something.
Exactly, a shoreline. And for you, maybe that destination is a shoreline of profound, limitless abundance. Maybe it is a deeply resonant, soulful relationship you have been yearning for across, the passage of eras.
Oh, I love that.
Or perhaps it is a pinnacle of creative achievement, like a vision you hold so clearly in your mind's eye that you can practically taste the salt in the air.
You can just feel it right there waiting for you.
Right. So you are swimming. You are putting in an endless tide of effort. You are taking all the necessary steps, waking up early, doing all the physical actions that the world tells you are the absolute right things to do.
Checking every single box.
Checking every box. But every single time, you feel like you are finally getting close. Every time that shoreline comes into sharp focus, you collide with an invisible, unyielding barrier. It is like hitting a sheer wall of glass hidden just beneath the surface of the water. You described it to us as a sort of soul-deep fatigue.
And I think the most agonizing part of that experience, as you so sharply observed in that message, is the confusion of it all.
The confusion, exactly.
Because you look around and there is no physical wall there. The sky is clear, the water is open, the path seems completely unobstructed, but you are just physically exhausted.
Right, your arms are just dead.
Totally. You are burning through a monumental reserve of your life force, striving and clawing, and yet the outcome remains entirely out of reach. There is this profound, deeply seated frustration in feeling as though some hidden, unseen force is actively working against you.
Yes.
It feels almost like an orchestrated conspiracy to keep you anchored exactly where you are, no matter how furiously you paddle.
Exhausting is exactly the word. I mean, it is a biological and emotional burnout. And that cycle of striving, colliding, and collapsing is exactly what we are going to dismantle today.
That is the whole goal.
It is. The core mission of our exploration here, the reason we are dedicating this entire session to you, is to completely shatter the illusion of these invaluable barriers.
We really need to get to the bottom of it.
We do. We are going to map out the fundamental architecture of reality itself. We're laying out a precise mechanical method for shifting your entire existence out of a state of frantic survival and into a state of limitless, effortless creation.
Which sounds huge, but it is entirely mechanical.
Right. We're going to explore the raw mechanics of how reality actually behaves, completely unclouded by superstition or metaphor.
Exactly.
But okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning, because before we map the cosmos, we have to start with the wall itself.
The invisible glass wall.
Yeah. And here is where my mind immediately gets tangled. If we feel this resistance so intensely, if the bruising from hitting this invisible wall is an undeniably painful reality in our daily lives, how is it practically possible to claim that the barrier itself is entirely an illusion?
That is the big question, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, you can't just tell someone who has a bloody nose from walking into a glass door that the glass isn't real.
No, definitely can't. And it feels incredibly real because you are experiencing the dense physical echo of it.
The echo.
The physiological stress response, the cortisol flooding your system, the exhaustion, those are entirely real biological events. But the conceptual architecture of being blocked is an absolute fallacy.
Okay, wait, explain that. How is it a fallacy if my nose is bleeding?
Well, what's fascinating here is the distinction between a physical obstruction and an internal command. There are no actual external blocks in your path.
None at all.
None. There is no cosmic entity standing in your way holding up a stop sign. What you are colliding with is simply archaic programming.
Archaic programming, like an old computer virus or something.
Basically, yeah. It is an outdated sequence of neurological and psychological instructions running quietly in the background of your mind.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But here is the most critical piece of this puzzle, and it requires a fundamental shift in how you view language.
Language? How so?
Well, when you identify with the state of being stuck, when you speak the words, "I am blocked," you are not just describing your current weather. You are not just making a passive observation.
What am I doing then?
You are sending a direct, unyielding instruction to the universe to manifest and reinforce that exact state of resistance.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you are basically telling the machinery of reality to synthesize a wall.
Wait, I have to push back on that immediately, because that sounds dangerously close to, I don't know, toxic positivity.
I hear that a lot, yeah.
Right. Like, are you suggesting that if I just stop saying I am stuck, my physical reality instantly changes? Because if I have no money in the bank, or if my creative project is failing, just refusing to say I am stuck feels like burying my head in the sand.
It feels like delusion.
It totally feels like delusion. How is this archaic programming actually generating the wall? If it is not a malicious external force, where did it even come from, and how is it altering my reality?
That is the perfect distinction to make. It is not about simply slapping a happy label over a gaping wound. It is about understanding the fundamental mechanics of perception.
Okay, I'm with you.
This archaic programming was written during the dawn of your existence. In the earliest, most formative chapters of your life, when you were essentially a sponge absorbing your environment.
Like when we were kids.
Exactly. You watched your caretakers, you observed your society, and you internalized strict rules about how the world works.
So it's inherited.
It is. And this programming was designed purely, unequivocally, with the intention of keeping your physical form safe. It is a primal survival script.
Just to keep us alive.
Exactly. If you learned in your distant past that standing out brought harsh criticism or danger, your nervous system wrote a non-negotiable rule. It said, stay invisible to stay safe.
Wow. So it's not trying to ruin my life.
Not at all. It was created with a fiercely protective instinct. It is not a demon to be fought. It is just a piece of software that has long outlived its utility. The issue is that the old software is still running the hardware today.
Man, it makes me think of an analogy. Imagine you are wearing a massive, incredibly dense iron suit of armor.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. Now, in a distant past era, during a time of intense conflict and physical danger, that armor was absolutely necessary. It saved your life. It deflected the arrows.
It did its job perfectly.
Exactly. But now, the war is over. You're trying to swim across that beautiful, calm river we talked about, moving toward your desired destination. But you are still wearing the iron armor.
And it's dragging you down.
It is dragging you down to the riverbed. You are drowning because of the very thing designed to save you.
That is exactly what is happening.
But again, this brings me back to the friction here. If the armor feels so impossibly heavy and I am actively sinking to the bottom of the river, how do we simply bypass it?
Right. You can't just ignore it.
Exactly. How do we just say, oh, it's just archaic software while water is literally filling our lungs?
You don't pretend the armor isn't heavy. You acknowledge the weight. But you must simply stop claiming the armor as your core identity.
Okay, stop claiming it as my identity.
Yes. And this brings us to the profound, almost terrifying danger of the phrase, I am.
Oh, those two words.
In the raw mechanics of consciousness, every single time you utter those two words, a reality is solidified.
Solidified, like poured concrete.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the universe, this boundless, energetic fabric of existence, operates with absolute subjectivity.
Meaning it doesn't judge.
It possesses no judgment whatsoever. It has no moral compass regarding your choices, and it has no preference for your joy over your suffering. It simply, flawlessly agrees with whatever identity you claim.
Wow. So it just says yes.
It is an echo chamber of your deepest convictions. When you say, I am heavy, the universe responds with brutal efficiency. It says, yes, you are. Let me arrange the circumstances to increase the gravity.
That is terrifying.
It is. When you say, I am perpetually stuck, the universe says, yes, you are. Let me ensure the doors in this room remain locked.
So what does this all mean for the neurobiology of the person saying this? Because I love the cosmic framing, I really do. But I need to ground this in the hardware of the human brain.
Let's do that. Let's look at the biology.
Yeah, let's look at a creator, for example. Say someone is working on a novel or starting a massive new enterprise, and they repeatedly tell their friends, their peers, and themselves in the mirror, you know, I have a profound lack of inspiration right now.
I'm just totally blocked.
Right. Nothing is working. I am blocked. What is physically happening in their head?
Biologically and cosmically, in that exact moment, the instruction is honored with absolute perfection.
Wait, honored by their own brain?
Yes. Let's look at the hardware, specifically the intricate filtering mechanism at the base of the brainstem. This network is responsible for sorting through the torrential downpour of sensory stimuli you encounter every waking moment.
Because we'd go crazy if we processed everything.
Exactly. Because the brain cannot process the vast cosmos of data pouring in, it requires a filter. It requires a directive.
A set of instructions.
Right. So when you declare, I am devoid of ideas, you have just handed a search warrant to that filtering system. It immediately begins to filter out any incoming inspiration.
No way, it literally blocks it out.
Literally, you could be staring at the most beautiful, awe-inspiring sunset or overhear a conversation on the street that holds the exact, precise key to unlocking your massive project, and your mind will literally render it invisible.
It just deletes it.
The auditory and visual data will hit your sensory organs, sure, but your brain will discard it before it ever reaches conscious awareness. The universe, utilizing your own biology, is just politely fulfilling the order you placed.
That is simultaneously terrifying and incredibly empowering.
It really is both.
You're telling me that the wall isn't glass? The wall is my own sensory filtering system, aggressively defending the story I keep repeating.
That is exactly what it is.
But if the barriers are just these old, heavy scripts we are unconsciously reciting, and my brain is filtering the world to match them, where exactly do these scripts live?
That is where we get into the architecture.
Right, because how are they interacting with the tangible physical world we walk around in every day? It feels like there is a bridge missing here between a deeply ingrained thought in my head and the actual physical reality in front of me.
People always miss the bridge.
Yeah. If I change the thought, how does the physical matter of the world rearrange itself?
To understand that bridge, we have to completely dismantle how you perceive the structure of your own existence.
Okay, let's dismantle it.
The human experience does not just happen in one messy, chaotic clump of matter and thought. It unfolds elegantly, predictably, across three distinct but deeply interconnected planes of existence.
Two planes.
Yes, the physical plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane. And honestly, if you do not understand the hierarchy of these planes, you will spend your entire life fighting shadows.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's map these out clearly, because I think this is where the vast majority of people get completely lost.
If they do.
They think everything starts and ends in the physical.
And that is the great illusion. So let's start from the top of the hierarchy.
The top being the spiritual plane.
Yes. The spiritual plane is the infinite reservoir of all potential. It is the vast, unformed clay of the cosmos.
Just raw potential.
Exactly. It is the realm of pure, unadulterated energy, where everything that could ever exist, every conceivable reality, every possible timeline, already resides in a state of suspended potential.
Like a massive warehouse of everything.
Right. It lacks nothing. It knows no time and no constraint.
Okay, so what is beneath that?
Beneath that, you have the mental plane. This is the domain of consciousness. This is the architect's studio.
The studio, I like that.
This is the precise location where you, through your focused awareness, your beliefs, and your choices, select which piece of that infinite potential you wish to pull down into experience. The mental plane is where the blueprint is actually drawn.
Okay, so the spiritual is the clay, the mental is the architect drawing the plans.
Yes. And finally, at the bottom of the hierarchy, you have the physical plane.
Which is where we live out our days.
Right. But the physical plane is simply the echo. It is the materialized past.
With a past, not the present.
It is the materialized past. It is the dense, slow, heavy condensation of what was previously decided in the mental plane. The physical world is not where creation happens. The physical world is just the printout of the document you already typed.
Just the printout. Oh, wow. I want to make sure I am visualizing this correctly. Let me try a cinematic analogy here to really ground this hierarchy for everyone listening.
Go for it.
Imagine reality is a sprawling, grand movie theater.
Okay, I can picture that.
The physical world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the things we can touch, our bank accounts, our current relationships, our living situations, the car we drive. That is merely the movie screen reflecting the light.
It is a flat surface.
Exactly. A flat surface showing a projection. So then the mental plane, that is the projection booth at the back of the theater.
Where the actual work is done.
Right. It's the film reel where the story is actively being edited, spliced, and arranged. And the spiritual plane is the pure, limitless, blinding light of the projector bulb itself, capable of illuminating absolutely any story placed in front of it.
That analogy holds profound weight. It really clarifies the mechanism.
It makes so much sense when you break it down like that.
Yeah. It does. But let's push it further to illustrate the tragedy of human behavior. Because if you understand that theater analogy, you immediately see the futility of how we normally live.
Oh, completely. Because I look around and I look at my own life in moments of stress. And what are we doing?
What are we doing?
We are spending the lion's share of our incredibly precious energy rushing up to the front of the theater, standing right at the movie screen, and clawing at the fabric.
Clawing at the screen, exactly.
We don't like the movie that's playing, so we scratch at the canvas, we scream at the shadows on the wall, begging them to change shape, and when they don't, we just claw harder. And that leads to this immense, soul-crushing burnout.
It is the root cause of all modern exhaustion.
All of it.
A sweeping majority of our society is entirely fixated on the physical plane. We are constantly attempting to force matter to change matter.
Which is so slow.
It is the slowest, densest, most resistant plane of existence. If we want more wealth, we just physically labor harder, burning the candle at both ends until there is absolutely no wax left.
Or if we want to fix a broken relationship.
Right, we force physical conversations, we manipulate actions, we arrange physical circumstances to try and force a feeling. We are literally trying to change the movie while it is already playing on the screen.
Instead of just walking up to the booth.
Instead of simply turning around, walking up the stairs to the projection booth, elevating our awareness to the mental plane, and calmly changing the real.
Wow.
True creation, true shifting of reality only occurs in the mental plane. You cannot negotiate with the echo. You must change the shout.
You cannot negotiate with the echo. That is so powerful. Wait, this completely reframes the way we look at things like manifestation practices, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It changes everything.
Because you hear so much about the specific mechanics of it out there. Like, oh, you have to journal your goals every morning.
Right, or you have to visualize exactly this way.
Yeah, or you have to repeat these specific phrases in the mirror while maintaining eye contact. People get so incredibly hung up on the physical rituals.
They obsess over the rituals.
But based on this architecture, based on the hierarchy of the planes you just described, the physical techniques themselves are essentially irrelevant, aren't they?
They are absolutely irrelevant in their physicality.
I knew it.
The physical act of dragging ink across a piece of processed wood pulp does not magically bend the cosmos to your will. The physical friction of your vocal cords vibrating in a mirror does not alter the fabric of space-time.
So why do we do them? Why do they sometimes work?
The only true function of any of those techniques, the sole reason they possess any efficacy at all, is that they serve as a ladder.
A ladder to the projection booth.
Precisely. Their only purpose is to alter your state of consciousness. They are designed to elevate your awareness out of the dirt, the friction, and the struggle of the physical world, and lift you into the mental plane of pure awareness.
But whatever gets you up the stairs.
Exactly. Yeah. If journaling successfully gets you into the mental plane, where you actually feel the reality of your desire, then use it. If simply sitting quietly on a park bench works better, use that.
Or listening to a certain song.
Yes, if listening to music elevates you to the projection booth, that is your technique. The physical ritual is just the vehicle. The vital destination is the mental plane.
Okay, so if elevating our awareness to the projection booth, the mental plane, is the master key to literally everything, what is the physical mechanism that keeps violently pulling us back down?
Ah, that is the core struggle.
Because nobody actually wants to be clawing at the screen. Yet we constantly find ourselves back there, stressed out, reactive, forgetting entirely that we are the architects. If the projection booth is so peaceful, why do we keep falling down the stairs?
That gravitational pull downward is orchestrated by what we can call the subconscious guardian.
The subconscious guardian, okay.
And this guardian is deeply, inextricably intertwined with your physical body's autonomic nervous system.
So it's biological.
Very biological. You see, when your physical form perceives a threat, any threat, it immediately enters a state of survival.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. And in that highly charged state of survival, it entirely hijacks the higher reasoning centers of the mind. It pulls you forcefully, without your conscious consent, out of the mental plane and slams you brutally back into the dense, reactive reality of the physical plane.
But why? Why would it pull us away from where we have power?
Because its singular overriding goal is to keep your physical body alive for the next fleeting moment. It does not care about your dreams of abundance. It cares about keeping your heart beating for the next 10 seconds.
That makes sense. Let's look at the actual mechanics of that perception, because in the modern world, it is so incredibly sneaky.
It is very sneaky.
We aren't being chased by physical predators very often.
Yeah.
So how does being in survival mode actually alter what we experience on a moment-to-moment basis?
Biologically, when you enter a state of survival, your awareness undergoes a profound transformation. It becomes incredibly acutely narrow.
Monroe, like tunnel vision.
Yes. Imagine a highly advanced camera lens zooming in so tightly on a single subject that you entirely lose all peripheral vision.
Okay, I see that.
This biological narrowing was a stroke of brilliance in the ancient world. It was meant to focus all of your cognitive and visual attention solely on the immediate physical danger. The predator lurking in the brush.
I needed to see the tiger and nothing else.
You needed to see the threat and nothing else.
Yeah.
But in the modern era, our predators are almost entirely abstract.
Yeah, they're not tigers anymore.
Right. They are a passive-aggressive email from a colleague. They are societal expectations of success. They are the looming anxiety of financial obligation.
Invisible tigers.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
So your nervous system responds to an email the exact same way it responds to a physical predator. It locks into this narrow, frantic focus.
And blocks everything else out.
And in doing so, it literally blinds you to a vast constellation of opportunities. The lateral pathways to abundance, the serendipitous new connections that could elevate your career, the subtle, quiet paths to profound internal healing. They become invisible to the dysregulated mind.
Wow. We literally can't see them.
Your optic nerve processes the light. The information is physically there, but your brain flatly refuses to consciously register it because opportunity is not relevant to immediate survival. You cannot look for a beautiful sunset when you believe you are being hunted.
You cannot look for a beautiful sunset when you believe you are being hunted. That is a staggering paradox.
It really is the great human dilemma.
Our own biological machinery, the very system designed by the immense wisdom of evolution to ensure our continued existence, is the exact mechanism that is actively preventing our expansion.
It is keeping us breathing, but stopping us from truly living.
Exactly. So I have to ask, how in the world do we negotiate with a system like that?
It is tricky.
Because if I am panicking about a deadline, I can't just logically explain to my brainstem that an email isn't a tiger. The nervous system doesn't speak logic. It operates purely on impulse, chemical signals, and electrical currents.
It is a profound paradox, and attempting to logic your way out of a physiological response is a guaranteed path to frustration. You just spin your wheels. And this dilemma becomes even more challenging when we step back and consider the energetic frequency of fear itself.
What do you mean by the energetic frequency?
Well, fear is not just an isolated internal experience confined to your own biology. It is a highly repulsive force in the shared environment.
Repulsive, like pushing things away.
Yes. An individual who is radiating the frantic, jagged, erratic energy of survival cannot possibly attract the stabilizing forces of abundance or profound connection or serendipity.
Why not?
Because those higher states of being, immense wealth, deep, resonant love, effortless creative flow, they fundamentally require an environment of profound safety to take root and flourish. A seed cannot anchor and grow in the middle of a turbulent, destructive storm.
That makes so much sense. Think about the classic scenario of walking into a gathering or a networking event. We have all experienced this on a visceral level.
Oh, definitely.
Someone walks into the room, and before they even utter a single syllable, before you even make eye contact, you can feel their energy.
You can just feel the static.
Exactly. If they are vibrating with a sense of erratic unsafety, if their nervous system is locked in a silent, frantic panic, the room naturally recoils. People subtly step back.
The flow of conversation just dries up around them.
It does. It is not a malicious judgment from the other people. It is a primal biological response to erratic, unsafe energy. We are wired to move away from instability.
We protect ourselves naturally.
But on the flip side, we've also seen the exact opposite. Someone walks into that same room and they carry an aura of profound, deeply regulated safety. They aren't necessarily the loudest or the most physically imposing, but their internal state is incredibly calm.
And what happens?
People flock to them.
They become immensely, undeniably magnetic. People are drawn to their presence like gravity, because on a subconscious nervous system level, every other human being in that room is desperately seeking safety.
So they become the anchor.
When you exude a baseline of profound, unshakable safety, you become a biological anchor for everyone around you. And this exact same principle applies universally across all domains of life.
Not just social situations.
Not just social, it applies to drawing in wealth, attracting unprecedented success, magnetizing creative opportunities, abundance seeks safety. It seeks a stable vessel.
So if the vessel is shaking?
If your vessel is violently shaking with survival energy, abundance will bypass you for a more stable harbor.
Wow. So it sounds like if we want to reclaim our creative power from this primal nervous system, if we want to get back up to the projection booth, we have to learn to speak the language of the body.
We have to.
We cannot logic our way out of a panic attack, and we cannot logic our way into a state of abundance if our body physically feels like it is under siege. We have to calm the biological storm first. Everything else is secondary.
Exactly. Regulating the autonomic nervous system is not a luxury.
It's not just taking a bubble bath.
Right. It is not a secondary self-care practice. It is the absolute non-negotiable prerequisite for conscious reality creation. You cannot operate from the mental plane if your physical vessel is screaming alarms that it is in mortal danger.
The alarms are just too loud.
The physiological shift from a highly agitated state to a state of calm, grounded receptivity is the only bridge that allows the mental plane to take the reins back from the archaic survival instincts.
Okay, so how do we actually cross that bridge? When the alarms are blaring, when the chest is tight, what are the actual mechanical pathways to regulation?
There are two major pathways we must master: the psychological and the physiological.
Let's start with psychological.
Okay, let's start with the psychological tool, which involves a radical shift in perspective. It is the practice of stepping into the role of the impartial observer.
The observer.
When you feel that frantic spike of anxiety, when the panic begins to set in and the narrative in your head starts spinning out of control, your instinct is to fuse with it.
To become the panic.
Can become the panic.
Right.
Instead, you must introduce a wedge of awareness. You pause, you observe the visceral feeling in your body, and you ask yourself a very specific question.
What's the question?
Isn't it fascinating that this biological reaction is occurring?
Isn't it fascinating?
Yes.
That is such a subtle shift, but the magnitude of it is massive. It reminds me of stepping out of a turbulent, crashing ocean. When you are caught in the surf, you are just fighting to breathe. You are tumbling blindly in the foam, getting battered by the sand.
You're just trying to survive the wave.
But the moment you ask, isn't it fascinating? It is like you are suddenly transported. You are standing on a serene, solid cliffside high above the water.
You step out of the current.
You can still look down and see the massive waves crashing violently against the rocks. You fully acknowledge that the storm is happening, but you are no longer drowning in it. You are watching it. You are safe from it.
That detachment is instantaneous elevation. In that fleeting moment of genuine curiosity, you sever the neurological loop.
Just by being curious.
Just by being curious. You instantly detach from the physical plane immediate reactive cycle, and you ascend directly to the mental plane. You reclaim the projection booth. From that high cliffside, as you put it, you can observe the physical body experiencing fear without identifying as the fear. You are no longer trapped in the identity of I am anxious.
Right, because I am is dangerous.
Exactly. You have shifted into the profound awareness of I am the consciousness observing my physical vessel experiencing an anxiety response. The power dynamic completely inverts.
Okay, I love the observer technique. I really do. But let's be real here for a second. What about the physiological interventions?
And the storm is too loud.
Exactly. Because sometimes the biological storm is so loud, the cortisol is pumping so hard that we can barely hear our own thoughts long enough to ask a question.
The cliffside feels a million miles away.
It does. What do we do with the raw hardware of the body in those moments?
When the biological storm is raging at Category 5 levels, the subconscious is entirely deaf to logic and philosophy. It must be spoken to directly through the body.
How do we do that?
You have to communicate safety using the body's native archaic tongue. One of the most profound and immediate methods is the manipulation of the breath.
Breathing exercises.
Yes, specifically, a slow, rhythmic, sweeping cadence. When you consciously override your automatic breathing and match your breath to a tranquil, deliberate rhythm, extending the exhale so they are longer than the inhales, you are sending a mechanical, biological signal straight up the vagus nerve to the primal brain.
And what does that signal say?
That signal translates unequivocally to, we are not running from a predator, the environment is secure.
Oh, because if we were running, we'd be panting.
Exactly. A body in motion, fleeing for its life, cannot breathe slowly. By forcing the breath, you basically hack the system.
You trick it into feeling safe.
Furthermore, we can utilize physical interventions like rhythmic tactile contact or lateral visual tracking.
Wait, lateral visual tracking, like moving your eyes?
Yes, bending the eyes slowly from side to side or utilizing gentle, alternating physical touch on the left and right sides of the body. This serves as a direct biological override to the panic response.
That sounds almost too simple.
It mimics the bilateral processing that occurs during deep restorative sleep. It takes the highly concentrated, frantic energy localized in the fear centers of the brain and disperses it, effectively diffusing the fight or flight response.
It is fascinating how incredibly tactile and mechanical it has to be. You are essentially hot-wiring your own biology to force a state of calm.
You really are.
And I imagine this also requires a fierce level of environmental defense.
Yeah.
Because if we regulate ourselves, but then we refuse to guard our awareness, what's the point?
We just reset the alarm.
Right. If we are constantly absorbing fear-based narratives from the global ether, like sitting on the couch letting a relentless, uninterrupted tide of negative media, outrage, and crisis wash over us all day long, we are actively, voluntarily programming our nervous system for continuous panic.
We are inviting the tigers into the living room.
Yes. A conscious creator must ruthlessly curate their environment. You have to fiercely defend your baseline of safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to cultivate an internal garden of profound peace if you are constantly willingly pouring toxic acid onto the soil.
That's a great way to put it.
Curating what enters your visual and auditory awareness is not ignorance. It is a fundamental responsibility of a conscious architect. Once the physical vessel is pacified, once it truly feels safe and the biological alarms are finally turned off, then and only then can the grand work finally begin.
Then we can get to work.
That is when you can sit comfortably in the projection booth and start rewriting the internal rulebook.
So let's go there. Let's rewrite the rulebook. The alarms are off. The breath is slow. We are sitting in the projection booth of the mental plane. The body is completely calm.
We are ready.
How do we actually change the film reel?
Yeah.
Because as we established earlier, true transformation isn't just about tweaking a few habits. It requires changing one's fundamental identity.
It does.
To achieve an unprecedented state of being, to experience a magnitude of reality you have never known, you must become an entirely new version of yourself.
Yeah.
You have to adopt beliefs that align perfectly with the desired reality, not the current echoing reality of the physical plane. How do we rewrite the code without triggering the alarms again?
This is where we introduce a highly potent linguistic strategy. You see, the human mind is a relentless, exhausting, proof-seeking machine.
Proof-seeking, meaning it looks for evidence.
Its entire evolutionary job is to constantly scan the environment and gather evidence to support whatever it already believes is true. It hates cognitive dissonance.
Oh, it really does.
Now, if you are holding deeply ingrained limiting beliefs and you stand in front of a mirror and declare a direct declarative statement like, I am universally loved, or I am a magnet for vast, unimaginable wealth.
Like traditional affirmations.
Exactly. If you do that, the mind will likely mount a violent defense. It will analyze the statement, compare it to the current physical evidence, and reject it as a complete falsehood.
That just calls you a liar.
It will point to your empty bank account or the conflict in your relationships and scream, liar, this is a delusion.
Oh, the internal rebellion. I know that feeling intimately. The physical self will absolutely scream at you. It will say, this is absurd. You're completely detached from the real world.
It feels awful.
And that internal conflict, that war between the new affirmation and the old belief, just breeds even more exhaustion. You feel like you are gaslighting yourself.
Exactly. The friction of cognitive dissonance burns massive amounts of energy. So we bypass the defense system entirely.
How do we bypass it?
We use a linguistic Trojan horse. You bypass the critical faculty by framing the new identity not as a declarative statement, but as an inquiry.
A question.
Yes. Instead of forcefully declaring, I am universally loved, you gently ask the mind, why am I so universally loved?
Oh, wow.
And instead of trying to convince yourself, I am wealthy, you ask, why does abundance flow to me with such effortless ease?
Why does abundance flow to me? That is brilliant. It completely short-circuits the argument.
It does, because when presented with a question, the mind's natural involuntary impulse is not to argue. It is to answer.
It wants to solve the puzzle.
The defenses are bypassed because you aren't making a claim to be fought. You are posing a riddle to be solved. You give the relentless proof-seeking machine a brand new directive.
And it just goes to work.
It immediately goes to work. It begins searching the environment, filtering through past interactions, mining deeply buried memories, and highlighting subtle cues in your current reality, all to find evidence to prove the premise of the question true.
It literally looks for the proof of the new reality.
It starts working fiercely for you rather than against you. You are hijacking its natural function for your benefit.
But what do we do about that lingering, frightened physical self that still occasionally rebels?
Because it will rebel sometimes.
Right. Because even with the cleverest linguistic tricks, there is that visceral part of us that still feels the heavy gravity of the old reality. It feels the pull of the past, and it panics. It wants to go back to the familiar struggle.
You must fundamentally change your relationship with the physical self. The greatest mistake people make is framing their own body and their old programming as an enemy to be defeated in battle.
Going to war with ourselves.
If you go to war with yourself, you will always lose. Instead, you must treat the physical self as a frightened inner child who is simply throwing a tantrum.
A tantrum because it's scared.
Demanding to run the show because it genuinely thinks it is the only one who can keep you safe from the dark. The key is not to fight this child, not to suppress it, and certainly not to shame it.
So what do we do?
The key is to govern it with immense, unwavering compassion. You soothe the physical self, acknowledging its fear, but holding firm in the knowledge that from the higher vantage point of the mental plane, the desired reality is already a forged truth.
It already exists.
It already exists perfectly intact in the spiritual plane. It is merely awaiting its slow, inevitable condensation into physical matter. You lead the child. You don't fight it.
And to accelerate that condensation, to speed up the translation from the mental to the physical, we can utilize what are called the twilight boundaries of consciousness. I find this specific mechanism utterly mesmerizing.
The twilight boundaries are a critical window of profound vulnerability and power.
When are they?
These are those magical, highly porous moments just before you slip completely into sleep, and the fleeting, hazy moments right upon waking.
When we're half asleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
During these specific biological windows, the critical, analytical mind, the gatekeeper that usually rejects new ideas, is largely subdued. Its defenses are lowered. Meanwhile, the subconscious mind is wide open, highly receptive, and incredibly fertile. It will absorb almost whatever you place into it.
Imagine the practical application of this. Imagine utilizing the technology you already hold in your hand, your device, to capture a solitary, quiet spark of your own voice.
Yes, recording yourself.
You record yourself asking these deeply empowering questions. Why am I so incredibly magnetic? Why is my life suddenly filled with such profound, unshakable peace?
It's so powerful.
And you set that audio to loop continuously, very quietly as you drift into sleep. You are bypassing the gatekeeper entirely. You are planting seeds directly into the deepest, most fertile, unguarded soil of your mind night after night.
And the true acceleration happens when you add profound cellular emotion to that recitation.
Feeling it in the body.
When you don't just mechanically speak or hear the words, but you summon the physiological feeling of immense gratitude, joy, and relief, as if the reality has already completely blossomed.
Emotion is the key.
Emotion is the energetic charge. Thought sends the signal out, but emotion is the magnetic field that draws the reality toward you. When you combine the twilight state with elevated emotion, the timeline of transformation accelerates in ways that defy physical logic.
It sounds so beautifully seamless when we lay it out like this. You calm the body, you ascend to the projection booth, you bypass the defenses with a linguistic Trojan horse, and you plant the new reality in the twilight states with deep emotion. It is an elegant architecture.
It is a complete system.
Yet, and we have to be honest here, we have to acknowledge a darker, heavier truth that sits at the bottom of all this.
The hidden barriers.
Right. Even armed with these masterful, precise tools, some individuals remain entirely anchored in place. They do the deep internal work, they regulate their breathing, they feel the elevated emotion, they ask the questions, and still, they do not move. The reality does not shift.
It happens all the time.
And when you look closely, it seems it is because a deeply hidden, fiercely guarded part of them fundamentally believes they do not deserve to set sail.
This brings us to the realm of hidden anchors, and I would argue this is the absolute final frontier of true, lasting liberation. The mechanics we discussed are flawless, but they cannot overcome a contradictory foundational belief.
The hidden anchors.
Often, we tightly, desperately grip our limiting programming. We hold on to our invisible walls because of unseen internal objections. We hold profound, deeply subconscious fears about the secondary gains of our suffering.
Secondary gains, like we get something out of struggling.
Exactly. We fear what we might actually have to sacrifice or who we might have to become if we stepped fully into our grandest desires.
It is the great irony of the human condition. The fear of success is almost always vastly more potent and paralyzing than the fear of failure.
It is, and the reason is biological and social. Failure is intimately familiar. It is painful, yes, but it is a known terrain. Failure requires absolutely no change in your identity. You get to remain exactly who you are, surrounded by the people who know you.
You don't have to change.
But stepping into an unprecedented magnitude of success, that triggers profound tectonic dynamics. There is frequently a massive, entirely unspoken guilt associated with outgrowing the reality of our ancestors.
The fear of leaving the tribe.
The primal fear of abandoning the tribe. If you accumulate more wealth or experience more radiant joy or heal more deeply than anyone in your lineage has ever known, a very old, very primal part of your mind terrifies you with the thought that you will be cast out of the group.
It tells you they won't accept you anymore.
It whispers that you will be alienated, that guilt acts as a massive invisible anchor buried up in the sand.
It is the guilt of the pioneer. You are stepping off the edge of the known map. And there is a massive societal shadow here too, especially regarding the concept of abundance. There is a deep, incredibly pervasive collective association that ties immense power and wealth directly to moral corruption.
Oh, that is a huge one.
We observe those in the world who have hoarded an endless tide of wealth while a vast multitude suffers. We observe the lavish, disconnected, sometimes destructive lives they lead. And on a deeply subconscious level, we look at that and say, if I become wealthy, I will inevitably become like them. The power will corrupt me.
We are so afraid of becoming the villain.
So we subconsciously vow to stay small. We choose to struggle, secretly believing that our lack of resources is a testament to our integrity. We wear our suffering as a badge of moral purity. It's a brilliant, tragic defense mechanism.
Tragic is the right word.
How in the world do we sever that deeply ingrained societal tie between abundance and corruption? How do we convince the subconscious that it is safe to be powerful?
We must ruthlessly strip away the moral weight we have falsely, collectively assigned to abundance. This requires absolute clarity, energy, wealth, influence, success. These are inherently universally neutral forces. They possess absolutely no innate morality. A dollar bill does not have a conscience. They are simply amplifiers of what already exists within the individual.
Like a magnifying glass.
Exactly. If a deeply corrupt, violently selfish individual acquires a vast magnitude of wealth, it simply amplifies their selfishness and gives them a larger radius of destruction.
But if it's someone good?
But if a deeply compassionate, conscious, highly regulated individual acquires that exact same magnitude of wealth, it massively amplifies their capacity for profound healing, systemic support, and creation.
So staying small helps nobody.
Holding on to the guilt of staying small serves absolutely no one. It is a false nobility. In fact, stepping fully into vast abundance provides you with the greatest possible leverage to elevate humanity. Your smallness, your exhaustion, your struggle, it does not serve the world. It deprives the world of the resources you could be directing.
Your smallness does not serve the world. That is a sentence to anchor on. It completely shatters the martyrdom complex. It reframes the pursuit of abundance not as a selfish, egoic endeavor, but as a profound collective responsibility. You acquire the resources so you can change the landscape.
Exactly. To clear these hidden anchors, an intense, introspective light must be cast directly upon them. They only survive in the dark.
Bring them into the light.
I suggest a radical, unforgiving exercise. You must literally catalog every phantom fear, bring them out of the murky shadows, and lay them on the table.
Write them all down.
You must articulate every potential negative consequence of acquiring your deepest desire. If I achieve this massive success, who will be jealous? Will I lose my free time? Will my oldest friends judge me? Will my family ask for money?
Face it all head on.
By extracting these fears from the dense, reactive depths of the physical plane and bringing them into the glaring, analytical light of the mental plane, you force yourself to examine them logically. And in light of conscious awareness, the power of these phantoms completely evaporates. You realize they are just old ghosts guarding an empty room, not solid walls.
It brings everything beautifully full circle. We started this exploration by visualizing colliding with an invisible wall in the middle of a vast ocean, feeling battered and exhausted.
We did.
And through this analysis, we have discovered that the wall, the heavy iron armor pulling us down, the hidden anchors buried in the sand. They are all, without exception, constructs of a mind desperately trying to keep a physical body safe in an ancient world that no longer exists.
And this leads us to a deeply philosophical, yet intensely practical reflection on the true nature of who is actually listening to this discourse right now.
Who's really under there?
The physical constraints you feel on a daily basis, the biological alarms ringing in your chest when you face the unknown, the archaic programming whispering doubts in your ear, these are merely the temporary garments worn for your current human experience.
Just clothes.
They are the intricate, highly advanced spacesuit required to navigate the density of this physical plane. But they are not you.
They are the suit, not the astronaut inside it.
Precisely. Beneath all of the conditioning, beneath the complex identity you have painstakingly constructed, beneath the dense history of your lineage and your past failures, your core essence is infinite, pure energy.
Pure consciousness.
You are an individualized spark of the universal mind. You are the architect. The limitations, the invisible walls, they're an illusion of the physical plane, a trick of the light. Your vastness, your unlimited potential is the undeniable reality of the spiritual plane.
That reframing shifts the center of gravity of an entire life. The deep, soul-crushing exhaustion we talked about at the beginning completely vanishes when you realize you aren't a fragile physical body trying to conquer a hostile, unyielding physical world. You are pure consciousness, deliberately utilizing a physical vessel to experience the joy of its own creation. You aren't fighting the ocean. You are the water.
You are the water, beautifully said.
So, as we bring this intensive exploration to a close, as we wrap up this map of reality we've drawn for you today, I want to leave you with a final echoing consideration.
Something to take with them.
Exactly. We have mapped the architecture of reality. We have identified the three planes. We have handed you the precise mechanics to calm the biological storm, to bypass the proof-seeking mind, and to rewrite the deepest code of your existence.
The tools are all there.
But I want you to step beyond all the mechanics, beyond the neurology and the philosophy for just one moment, and deeply consider this. If you fully accepted today, in the absolute core of your being, that the architect of the vision, the builder of the reality, and the raw materials of existence are all seamlessly, perfectly united within you, what is the very first rule you would write in your brand new cosmic rulebook?
What a profound place to pause. We wish you immense clarity, unshakable courage, and profound peace as you step back out into the physical world, no longer bound by its dense illusions, but armed with the unyielding awareness of the mental and spiritual planes.
Until next time, remember to keep observing the storm from the serenity of the cliffside. Stay deeply curious.